Well, it's finally happened. After nearly 2 years, Gu has finally been dethroned and is no longer the strongest in the verse. And it wasn't by some new character, it wasn't by Gabbron, wasn't by James, wasn't even by Gun, but it was by a character that we have technically known since the beginning, we just didn't know their name for the longest time. That person being the original copy genius, Jin Yun Park. Now, why am I saying Jin Yun is the strongest? Isn't he only relative to Tom Lee? Isn't he this crazy old man? Well, yeah, his current state isn't all that. However, his prime is absolutely ridiculous and beyond anything that we have ever seen. And we know this thanks to a very, very much fan-favorite character, Johan. Now, I'm sure you all remember the fight between Johan, Jake, and Ollie back in the J Kim arc 3 years ago, and the statement that Gun and Gu make during it. You see, Gun and Gu both flat out admit that after 3 years, Johan will be completely beyond them. There won't be a single person able to stop him, even though Gun views Jake as incredibly strong and having a crap ton of potential. Due to Gabbron's blood, he still believes that only Johan will become this strong. Now, why do you think Gun and Gu would state something like this? Well, simply put, because the only other copy user until Daniel showed up was that strong. And that was, of course, Jin Yun. The whole reason Johan failed to surpass them is because he didn't train his body. He slacked off, only relied on his talent, and never put in the hard work to get a good physicality. But once he did start putting in the effort, he skyrocketed. After maybe 7 months of training, Johan was able to reach the level of UI Daniel for 10 seconds. After only working for 7 months, he reached near godhood. Had he trained for 3 years, he'd be completely unmatched. Now, what was Jin Yun doing during Gen 0? Constantly fighting, gaining some of the best fighting styles around, and most importantly, growing physically. In fact, though subtle, we even see he's able to seemingly match Gabbron in strength to some capacity during their little arm wrestling match. Even if you want to say he's not physically as strong as Gabbron, he still would have some physical relativity to him. Not only that, but much like Elite, he was and kind of implied to be a combat genius, and also he's a medical genius as well. He has an incredibly high level of IQ. Now, while he may not have been as much of a combat genius as Elite, he was definitely still on that same caliber, meaning he had the battle IQ to employ all the techniques he saw perfectly. And thanks to our old pal Little Daniel, we know he could even copy something like Invis attacks. Because while Daniel could copy the movements, he couldn't copy the speed because he lacked the physicality. Jin Yun obviously doesn't have that problem. To further back up why Jin Yun is top dog in the verse, even James Lee mentions that he's envious of the copy talent. The only person he could really be envious of is Jin Yun. The reason why he's so envious of the copy talent is because Jin Yun was simply put that strong. He didn't have to put in as much work, even though he still did, to become so freaking powerful. Now, a very common debunk that I have seen is that, well, Tom Lee states that he never expected to see anyone more talented than them in his lifetime, being Gun and Gu. So Jin Yun can't be as talented as Gun and Gu because of what Tom Lee said. Issue is, this is almost immediately proven wrong by what Gun says, and Gun confirming that Jin Yun has the same copy ability as Johan. If anything, you could even say that Jin Yun has a better copy ability than Johan for all the things we listed prior. So this statement does not hold up whatsoever, and it's also just a blatant showing of PTJ just hiding things that are going to be revealed in the future. He likes to be subtle about it. He doesn't like to immediately just go, bam, this is the thing. It's what happened with Elite being Charles Choi. He didn't really exactly state it, even though it was right there. He didn't state it until, it was the right time. And that's kind of what's happening with Jin Yun. He didn't want to reveal that there was a third ultra-powerful copy user out there until the time was right. So, yeah, this debunk does not work. There you have it. There is all of the explicit evidence that points to Jin Yun being the strongest person in the verse. Jin Yun is what Johan could have become. He is the reason why the copy ability is so feared and hyped up by everyone else. Hell, the only reason he followed Gabrion was because of Gabrion's conviction and leadership, which drew people in, even those who were stronger than him. This is also a common thing we see with Jake, as Jerry is stronger than him, but due to conviction and leadership, Jerry follows. The leader doesn't always have to be the strongest, and we see this with Jake and especially with Gabrion. This man, Jin Yun Park, is the undisputed strongest in the verse.